and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Chats. We are delighted and honored to have Kalee Garland here. Kalee discovered at 7 years old that she had an AIDS diagnosis and is going to share with us how she navigated her childhood, how she navigated other people's perceptions of her, and how she manages to keep a positive attitude and gaslight herself positively. Well, let's get started with our first question then. How would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never had one?
Powerful, sweet, and it's like no other taste. The banana, I think, is the most unique taste. Like, it's a banana, and I'm stumped. I'm stumped on how to describe a banana.
I think you've just described yourself. Powerful, sweet, and unique.
That's really sweet. Thank you.
So let's talk about your perception change. You've had a lot happen in your life, and we're going to get down to it. When did you have your first existential awareness of you were different in the world?
My first knowledge that I was different in the world was when I was 7 years old. My family found out that I was HIV positive, not just HIV positive, but I had 7 T cells, so I had full-blown AIDS. And my mom was very open and direct with me about my status, and she was very emotional when she told me about her and I having this bug. And to me, it was like, my mom, telling me that my hair is blonde and she's crying about it. Like, I didn't really understand it. Like, it's just whatever, because before she told me I had this bug and it was called HIV, I saw a PSA on the television with Matt Johnson and Maya Balick and Joey Lawrence, the cast from Blossom, speaking about HIV and saying facts about HIV. And I was 7. I had no idea what they were even talking about. I just remember the very last line of the PSA was, HIV, it can happen to you. And when my mom told me that, I was just like, it's all right. Like, the television told me about this. It's okay. And of course, I'm just along for the ride. I'm 7 years old, and I really didn't get that I was different, that, I had this bug and I'm sick, until I was at NIH. I was on the first cocktail therapy for children, and I was just a kid, and there was other kids that are in other studies that had cancer and also HIV, and we were housed in this housing across the street from NIH office, one of their buildings, and it was called the Children's Inn. It's kind of like a Ronald McDonald house, because people are flown in all over the world and they need to be housed while they're being studied. And I love the place. It was great. There was lots of games, and there was a lot of really nice kids. And I would overhear the parents of my friends speak on how they were discriminated on in their hometown for their cancers or whatever sickness that they were going through, leukemia, anything. And people were just terrified of them. And I, remember being 7 and just being like, ugh, people can act like that? Like, we're sick. Like, ugh, like, I don't want to be like that. So I never, I knew I was different, and I had to keep my status to myself, to my peers. But I also had this other world which was open and knowledgeable about myself, and that's
this was in the 1990s.
Yeah, it was 1993. I was born in 1986, and my status wasn't discovered until I was 7, 93. So they didn't have any drugs available on the market except for AZT and 3TC. Oh, no, I'm sorry. AZT and anabolic steroids. And my mother was able to get me into a study at NIH through the Elizabeth Glacier Pediatric AIDS Foundation. And that's when I was on the first cocktail therapy for children, which was an experience. And that's where I got the fact that, you know, I am I never really thought that was, you know, different. I'm just me. Like, I don't know, isn't everyone different? Like, we're all just here, like we're all just kids, and that's really, I don't know, it was so many lessons from that place. I mean, every day is a lesson.
So before that, had you been tested at birth? Your mother was the
Oh no.
carrier, correct?
Yeah, my parents were together. They didn't split until I was 3, and they're white. My mom's not a drug user. They were married. There was no really like inkling to test my mom.
And so she had found out first and then you got tested?
No, my school in 2nd grade called Child Protective Services because they thought that I was being beaten, and I was the only one out of my 2 older brothers and myself. I have 2 older brothers. The only one that had these bruises, so I had to get a physical to prove to the authorities that I wasn't being beaten. And I went to San Diego Children's Hospital, and they were under the suspicion that I had leukemia because of my bruising, and I had bone marrow taken out of my back. And then they found out that I had ITP, which is an opportunistic infection where your platelets are being attacked by your white blood cells. And it's what elderly people get. Like, a 7-year-old doesn't get this. So they gave me an HIV test, and that's when we found out that I had 7 T cells.
So when you found out or they found out and told you, then did everyone else on your mother get tested?
Yeah, so everyone got tested. My 2 older brothers, my father, even though they were split up, still connected with my dad. It was just me and my mom that were infected with HIV. It is a 25% chance mother to child transmission without knowledge of your status. Like, today, if someone is HIV positive, they can get to undetectable and be in care, and there's like less than 1% chance that there is the mother to child transmission. So there is not really I mean, yeah, it's all about knowing your status.
Mm-hmm. And your brothers are older than you?
Yeah, we're very close in age. I have my eldest brother is 3.5 years older than me, and then I have my other brother who's a year and a half older than me.
Right. So the baby, it's discovered that the baby has this virus, and
Mhm.
as many children do when they are very poorly, they have a spirit about them. Oh, okay, right? Rather than everyone else around you is full of fear. Did you notice that?
Um, I don't. I My perception through my life. My mom was basically full of guilt and shame and just like tapped out. And my dad was always my rock and like a nice, amazing, loving person, but I never really had like a motivator. Like, I think there was like always this like loom of just like, well, she could die. We don't know. Like, whatever you want to do, which was, I don't know, interesting being like, I don't know, just able to float around, but not really having any expectations except for like, I don't know, don't die, or like I hope she doesn't die. But I also really like the fear was more from myself. Like, I don't like seeing the people that I love see me sick. That's like more of it. Like, when I get sick, like, I don't Like, I hate to see my dad like get scared. And like, I haven't really gotten sick except for, you know, a couple times. And there were like some major times, like 16 through 18 when I had meningitis for the fourth time. But that was, you know, I just don't want to get sick. And, you know, like, we can't control lots of things, but we can control our attitudes. And I don't know. I just try to make reasonable, good choices to not get sick because I love, you know, the people in my life so much, and I don't want to see them scared. It's more me. Like, it's more me.
And when you were at the hospital, and which city was this?
So I got sick with meningitis 4 times and
Well, at
three
the beginning, when
times.
you first went to the hospital when you were 7 and you found out there.
I was born and raised in San Diego, California.
So you were in San Diego, California. So you were near a major city.
Yeah.
And you noticed adults started treating you differently around you. And you started to behave. Did you act out in any way?
I mean, I I don't even necessarily think adults acted differently. Only my nuclear family was aware of my status, my school. Like, people outside of my home were unaware of my status because it's the need to know basis and universal precaution with school. You should be treating every kid like they have HIV, hepatitis down the alphabet, you know. And I mean, I was also pretty knowledgeable, and I don't know, I wasn't trying to act out. I really enjoy life and love life, and I was a pretty curious kid, and I just wanted to explore. So I wasn't really into acting out. My eldest brother acted out, and I got to vicariously see his scope of living and his choices, and be like, not for me. um and yeah,
The
yeah,
people
no
around
acting
you.
out.
When was the time that it became more public knowledge? I mean, the 90s was a pretty fearful time with that virus diagnosis.
Yeah. And that's one thing that was really awesome, is that I got to skate through and get through my, you know, childhood without people knowing about my status, because it was very stigmatized. And um my last 2 years of high school, I did get meningitis up in Redding, California, and actually, yeah, 3 times my last 2 years. And I don't even know how I was able to skirt them not getting into my business. You know, God bless HIPAA and and rights. Um, but I was just waiting for my 18th birthday, because that's, to me, in my head as a child, I couldn't control my structure. I had to go to school. I had to be around these structures, and I knew when I was 18, I had more control over who I could have in my life. And I, you know, totally fine with having people freely leave my life, you know, like with them showing me that they can't accept me. And I was so aware that there were these people because of my two worlds growing up. And I just like knew I had to seek them out. And when I had meningitis, so meningitis 3 times, was so many experiences through having meningitis. The fourth time was the most significant moment and experience, because I was 18, and it was my second time in my 18th year having meningitis. And I had my head shaved, and because they had to put a shunt through my body to drain my cerebral spinal fluid, because I couldn't, like, I would die. And that ended up getting infected, and then I had to take that out. But I really got to think about, now I'm an adult, now I'm 18, and like, way to start off life. It was like a new rebirthing moment. And my doctors at UCSD, you know, a team of doctors came in and were standing over my bed, and they were talking about putting me in hospice. And I just remember being so frustrated and irritated with them because I like waited my whole like childhood to be an adult, and then they're telling me that I'm going to go to hospice, like the place where I die. And I'm like, I've had this 3 times. Like I'm totally good. And I know I'm going to be old and gray when I die. And I don't appreciate this type of energy in my room. And I told them to get the fuck out. Or I told them, go fuck themselves and to get out. Cause I was just irritated because I just wanted to sleep. And I'm so sorry I cussed. I'm so sorry. Like I
And
told
this
them to
was
go
the
F
mid, so this
themselves.
was around 2005, 2004.
Yeah, 2004. And it took me like a year and a half to recover, but my weight dropped down to 88 pounds. Like I got out of the hospital, of course, because that's, that's what I was doing. And I would go outside because I love being outside. I'm very into walks. Like that's one of the reasons, like that's where I find my peace is outside. And I would be walking around and I would see people just look at me with the craziest faces because I had this shaved head and I was 88 pounds and I looked terrifying, but I didn't necessarily need to have their faces look at me. I know what I looked like when I stepped out of the house. I looked in the mirror and I just wanted to, have a mirror and just show people their faces because like the energy was just so frustrating to me, even though like it wasn't for me. I thought about what it would be like if I were younger and had to go through my life being sick and having to deal with these people. Like that was my huge catalyst moment of, all right, I got to definitely put myself out there and positively exploit myself because it's just what's right. Like it's just I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I felt it, so I got to do it.
So what were the actions that you took?
So I started to reconnect with the organizations that I was with as a child, and I spoke up in my first college health class and shared, and I just continued from there. I volunteered back at Camp Heartland, which is my childhood summer camp for kids affected and infected with HIV and AIDS. They're now Camp One Heartland, and they have reached out and they also run camps for other fringe children that, are just in needing of a great, amazing summer camp. And it just spiraled. Like whenever I can get a microphone, I just love speaking about it and opening up people's minds because my message is HIV is an acronym, and the first word is human, and we're all here, collectively living. And I could be you, but I'm not you. I could know you. It's like the golden rule is just constantly like in my head, and I also deal with children. And it's like a Ram Dass. We're all just walking each other home, and like to be out in the world and to know, like, I could know that person, but I don't know the person, and obviously, they've gone through something. If they have a shaved head and are 88 pounds and look sickly, maybe I should smile at them because that's powerful, and to wake people up with their power instead of like putting out that negative energy. And yeah, just going.
So by leaning into it and immersing yourself in the community to give back, you yourself found healing.
Oh yeah, and even I learn and find healing like every day, and like the most mundane, random things. But I think I definitely healed a lot of myself because when I was going back to school and balancing speaking to microphones, I also needed to have money. Like I needed some income, and I ended up connecting and being like a paid big sister, and I found the most incredible family. And they were also like, it was nerve wracking for me because I'm balancing these two worlds, and I am in love with this family and their kids, and because they had a seventh grader, an eighth grader, and a ninth grader. And they had a million different activities that needed to be juggled through. And then they also needed like a loving presence that could interpret what mom and dad were saying, like, because what they're saying is valid and they just, couldn't hear it. And I'm still so connected with them. Yeah, it was Father's Day at their house. Like they're totally family. But they were the first family that I shared like employers that I'm HIV positive, which, was nerve wracking in itself. But the parents met at Johns Hopkins. So I knew that they were both doctors. So I knew that they were going to have some knowledge and it was kind of a safety ground for me. But their children and the fact that they were like middle school and high school and they, got to, their experiences, my experiences were so much different. Like, I don't like when people say that I grew up fast because like I was still a childhood. I was still a child. I don't want to be aged. Like it was just a different childhood. And sure, was more mature, but being supportive and like able to help out these beautiful growing children like in the world and just like, I don't know, that was the most healing for me, I think, like retrospectively looking back on it, like, because I'm like not vicariously living, but kind of am. Like I don't know. Like I know that's not me, but I'm like, go get it. Like don't let these kids.
And when was this time, just so we can put a timestamp?
2005 to 2008, 9.
All right, so we're still in the early 2000s. So much has changed in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
As you move through that situation, do you disclose regularly to people now?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the first thing out of my mouth. It can be. I will not stop myself if I need to say it. I don't know. I'm very comfortable with myself, so like in dating, because I enjoy, like I'm a total yes sayer, and if I go on a first date with someone that's not going to go anywhere, I'm not going to, necessarily disclose my status. I don't know. That's, if it doesn't get brought up, like, I don't know. Like, but if I like someone, it's part of emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is like the foundation of all relationships that are good. It's like, well, to have solid, good ones. So I don't know.
Did you have, as a teenager, a concern, which was still then a secret pretty much, right? It was still a secret at that point. And did you have a concern that you would never be able to find a partner?
No, I grew up in a community. My mom was lesbian, and then I've also, had many beautiful gays growing up in my life, and they found love. And I don't know. I never had like a handicap mindset that I wasn't going to find love. Like it's more of, I just know that I'm going to have like a loving, open person in my life that's, strong. Like I'm aware of what I need, especially, as a 35-year-old woman, like growing and like experiences, because I've had some amazing relationships and, but yeah, never had the, I'm not going to find love. Like maybe if I was like sad for like a moment, just be like, I don't know, pitying myself, but that's like a 2-second thing. Maybe I took a nap. I don't know. Maybe
that's quite
maybe
remarkable because there are so many people in the world who don't deal with a virus or a stigma and are constantly plagued that they will be alone, they won't find anyone, that they're not enough. And here you are, completely the opposite. And that was not a mindset that you were willing to even entertain.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's not very nice. So it's like I don't like really appreciate it. And I definitely think, I am like a filter and I am the authority of myself. And like hearing that, it's like, why would I take that on? Like I don't want that. Like, no. I was having a great conversation with Aiden Park, and he interpreted what I do so beautifully, and I never put into words what I do to myself. And he's like, you gaslight yourself with positivity. And it's like, yeah, most people gaslight themselves with like negativity and like fear. It's just like, I just gaslight myself positive. Like, it's like, don't know, whatever, like it's gonna be
I like
positive
that.
because
I like that.
yeah.
What do you do to help ground yourself on a daily basis?
I honestly wake up and I like my routine is I walk about a mile and go get coffee, and I listen to music in my walking, and I walk back. Like it helps me just, yeah, ground myself, organize my thoughts. I also do it for my heart, like 2 miles in for my heart. I just, yeah, I try to just
Mm.
make good conscious decisions for myself, because I do very much so believe in holistic health, and your mindset is, I don't know, I would probably say 50% of your being, only because of the placebo effect. And that, to me, that's science, and I'm a lover of science. And like,
Mm.
if you believe that, like, that's just so powerful. And that's like, yeah, my gaslighting myself is, yeah,
I
it's
love
like, what
that.
can I
I love
do?
that. And for those who are curious about a grounding practice, you are welcome to check out our ebook, Vedic Meditation Stories. It's the only publication that is with unique individual stories of individuals who would never meditate and how it helped heal them, even individuals with shrapnel in the brain, seemingly unable to ever function, and working with the scientists, the medical doctors, of course, and people whose lives have changed. You're welcome to do that. The link should be at the box, and you can see that picture. And Aware Meditation is a nonprofit that goes into communities where there is not a representation of wellness that is accessible to them, with trained individuals for that personal touch. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go down into the description. If you like what we've been sharing about or appreciate what we're doing, please like and subscribe to the channel. We greatly appreciate that. But to finish it off, Kalee, why don't you tell us, goodness, what do you hope to leave this world with your path to make it a better place? And any tips that you would like to pass on to individuals who either know people who've been diagnosed, or they themselves didn't have the same blessing of positive gaslighting mentality?
I mean, there's so much to say. And honestly, I think the biggest thing is what I found in my life, and being in the hospital bed and being alone, and my conditioning for myself, and basically being my own best friend, and being in, very painful, hurtful, physical pain situations, is like, at the end of the day, like, we are all by ourselves, and I want to go to sleep. I want to be with my own best friend, which is myself. And, to train your mind, and you can train your mind. And meditation has definitely helped me significantly in my practices. I've picked up tips and tricks, and to not give up on yourself. And if you meet someone who tells you that they're positive, just be open, ask them questions. They're telling you for a reason, because they like your company. Like, don't be scared of someone. And people that find out that they're positive, it's okay. You can get undetectable. If you're undetectable, you become untransmittable, and everyone is deserving of love. Like, it's just so much. There's just so much. Like, that's what we're, remember.
Education, right? Educate
Yeah.
yourself with the science.
Yeah, like, that's how things become unscary, is through knowledge. And we are all powerful, and I just like to have everyone wake up to their power, and to know that you have the ability to be a power of like good and love, or you can be a powerful person that is putting out negativity. And most people don't know, but when someone gives a compliment, your body is unaware if you gave that compliment or received that compliment. And it's like an exchange of serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. Like, everyone gets it. So, like, that's just, I don't know, it's such a beautiful thing to know. And it's, yeah, knowledge is power.
Well, on that beautiful note, I think we should end our lovely cosmic chat with Kalee. If you want to know anything more about her, it's going to be listed in the description and also additional resources. We're so honored that you came and spent time with us, and we hope that you will come back. And with that, we want to say thank you for joining us on our cosmic chat.
Thank you for having me.